Hi, this is Bob Scully, and welcome to another edition of the World Show, Entrepreneurs, the Fiera Series. In a few moments, a man who probably knows more about mining than the miners themselves. He's known as a miner's miner. They come to him, the mining companies, when they want something done, something built, or when they don't know if a mine should even be built. We'll meet him in a few minutes. But first, cast your mind back to 9/11, a tragedy that changed thousands of lives, not just for the victims and their families, and not just for the people in North America. Halfway around the world, on the Persian Gulf, young Rajesh Ahuja had just moved from New Delhi as an immigrant to Dubai, where he'd been offered a prestigious post with an international luxury hotel chain. His wife came with him and his small children. The future beckoned. But then the Twin Towers fell, and he soon realized perhaps the Persian Gulf wasn't the right place to raise a young family. So he came to Canada, which admitted him in record time, 29 days, and well they should have. He became a net contributor to the economy, an excellent entrepreneur. His company is called Dependable Mechanical Systems. That says it all. Here he is. Rajesh Ahuja, I'm going to quote from your biography here, just a page apart. It's very telling.
Go ahead.
The first 5 months here were the worst of my life. And with no job and having come from an excellent compensation package and lifestyle in Dubai, I used to think, what have I done? But further down, it changes my whole outlook for the day when I hear good things about my company, and I do. This business is my third baby. For my life, a peaceful sleep and internal happiness is success to me. So
that's very important for me, actually.
Yeah, it turned around, obviously.
We tried to turn it around, actually. Initial period was a bit tough, actually, but thereafter things sort of worked out step after step. And we are here where we are today, actually.
You were from New Delhi, and you immigrated a first time by going to Dubai.
Yes.
To work in a big hotel group, I think.
Yes. I was working for the Sheraton Hotels in New Delhi, and from there I was actually sort of headhunted, and I moved on to the Kempinski Hotels in the Middle East in Dubai. And there I was working as a deputy chief engineer, and things were going very good. Life was very good, actually. Family was growing. I had my first son at that time. Mm. And then we applied for this immigration and just got it in 29 days without any interviews. And we were just, with this immigration in our hand, we were deciding what to do with it now. We had a good job, had a good setup over there. Mm-hmm. Everything was paid for by the company. Now you are going to move to a new place. My wife was totally, she was very excited. Not me personally, but she was fairly excited. So we thought, you know, the business actually, this all happened when when September 11th happened in 2001. Ah. And we just decided, you know what, we've got to move on. Maybe all that was not the right time, not the right move at that time, but we decided we're going to move on.
It was the political instability in Dubai was not exactly
true, very true, actually. Yeah. So although the business actually in the hotel industry had slowed down considerably, so we thought we got to move on. Let's take this move right now and carry on and see what's in store. I mean, if you've got immigration in 29 days, there's definitely must be something in store for me over there. I came in Canada on October the 10th, actually 2001, and landed here and was landed actually in a basement apartment in Scarborough somewhere. Was pretty tough. The first initial period was tough. Nobody wants to give you an apartment, not even any rental place comes your way because people want your credit history. Mm-hmm. They want to know how much money you've carried with you. Mm-hmm. And although I had all the credentials with me, I knew quite a few people in the university here in Beaumont, the institute here. But it was pretty tough. And finally, I managed to get into a rental apartment building's office whereby I had to convince him, you know what, I'm the right person, I'm not going to default. And I actually forced him to give me the apartment, really.
Really?
And, he said, "You
kind of embarrassed him."
I sort of embarrassed. He asked me for 6 months of rent, security, but I said no. If anybody else can only give you first and last, why should I be giving you 6 months, really?
Well,
so, and I was quite confident, and I really convinced him that you know, I'm no different than anybody else. And if Canada has called me here, you know what, I better be treated the same way as any other citizen here in the country.
So you were hired as an engineer. It happens that highly qualified immigrants have to drive cabs and so on. You didn't go through that.
Finally, I met this gentleman, and within about 5-10 minutes, he was fairly convinced that I'm the right person for him. and I joined him, and in really about 3 or 4 months, I was running his organization. It was a small company, a construction company, a mechanical contracting company, the same business what we do today. So it was, I used to go for all the meetings. I picked up a lot in those initial period when I was learning, and I was contributing as well to the organization. And finally, I was speaking to a gentleman whom I used to use for hiring people. He was a consultant downtown, and one day he told me, he said, "Are you looking for now?" Firstly, he asked me, he said, "Are you the owner of the company?" I said, "No, I'm not." Then he said, "I've got an opportunity for you. Would you be interested?" And I was sort of skeptical initially, but then I said, "Let me give it a chance." So I sort of went for it. And
so you became a freelancer. You didn't go from one company to starting your own right away. You were a freelancer.
No, actually, from my first company, I actually joined another company in a senior project manager role when I was running that project for them at the Department of National Defense. And then in a year and a half, I realized, you know what, I can do it better than anybody else. So although I was fairly young in the business, but I was sitting in the office while the project funding had stopped for a while. And I realized I can't sit there not doing nothing. So I just decided, you know, I'm going to go out on my own.
So this is where the entrepreneur was born.
This is where it was born, actually. And you won't believe it, it was in the initial, I had actually $500,000 worth of work on hand when I quit the job. And initial period was, I never realized what I'm going to be up against, actually. So you have all this work suddenly, which is not really big work looking at where I am today. But at that point in time, with the limited resources that I had,
it was a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, actually. 3 or 4 projects was a lot of work at that time. Getting on with the challenge of trying to organize your credit histories with suppliers who would not want to even talk to you sometimes because you don't have any credit history. Again, your business doesn't have any credit history now. But on my personal front, I had already gone through this. So I was sort of prepared for it. I had some finances of my own.
Did you have a banker?
No, I had a banker, but with very limited support from them initially, because when you start a business, nobody wants to give you a line of credit. Nobody wants to really stand security for you. But once things started to change shape as we progressed, actually. And in initial period, like I was telling you, I had to pick up stuff on my credit cards. I had no other choice. I was driving from job site to job site, project site to project site, trying to carry materials in my Toyota Highlander that I had at that time. And my wife used to say, "What are you doing, really?" So I used to manage and run all these jobs during the day and come back in the evening and price all new work, actually.
So you incorporated. Was that the birth of Dependable?
Dependable? Yes, that was sort of the birth of Dependable, yes, as well.
And your first clients, I don't know this particular business very well. Did they fund you a little bit up front? Or?
No, nothing in construction. In fact, they actually hold 10% till the end of the job, even further. So leave aside funding and you go to mechanical business is where you actually really put in a lot of money up front to the job.
Wow.
And it's
scary.
It's scary, yes. If any of your clients default, then you can go belly up very quickly, actually.
And is your client the general contractor? You're a subcontractor.
I'm a subcontractor to the general contractors, yes.
And so if the general contractor is wobbly,
then
you're in trouble.
You're in huge trouble, actually. And the fact is, initial period, I try to, and even till today, I've tried to run the business in such a way that I've tried to keep my business with institutional clientele, where I have not ventured into high-rise too much, really, but or into private developers, just to ensure that I can deal with the tensions of trying to do a good job, trying to ensure that all the paperwork is done properly on the project. I'm an engineer by profession, so I had no issues doing all of that. And some people are really scared doing all that and just want to be doing the work. I was not a plumber, I was not a sheet metal mechanic myself, but I knew exactly what was required. I knew the step-by-step process of how I've got to do it. And in the end, it all worked out.
And you mentioned institutional clientele. Even though your client is often the general contractor, I guess it's more reassuring. If it's a bank, a government, a hospital, they don't go away and they don't go bankrupt.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right there. And the only the only link which could go wrong was the general contractor, really. But you had to take your risk if you got to do the business.
And they're bonded anyway.
Many of them are bonded, yes, but some of them are not, but usually they are on institutional projects.
And I noticed in the research when I'm reading about you, first you pick the word dependable,
Yes.
which is reassuring, but then you have to deliver. And you will actually turn down millions of bucks of business, and you have done it, when you haven't found the right people to do it. That's rare. Most people will say, give me the job and I'll figure it out. But you insist that you must have the right people, and if you don't have confidence, you'll walk away from the money.
Well, that's a big challenge in Canada, is getting the right manpower, actually. Getting work, again, is not very easy, although, but if you really want to get the work, you can always go fairly aggressive and get the work. But then the more aggressive you go, the more efficiently you go run that project. And in order to do that, you need to have the right workforce. And if you don't have the right workforce to run a project which you've already taken aggressively, it's not worth it, really. So it was a catch-22 situation, really. What you should be doing, you should be going for more business. How I have shaped it is I've tried to ensure that I consolidate what I have, try to ensure that the resource management is kept at par with the growth. So that's how we've been able to grow that quick, that fast, is to ensure that we have the resources available to basically take on that growth.
And I think I read in the same part where you mentioned that you've given up some business because you didn't have the right people, you learned the hard way. You had some subpar people.
Yes.
They made mistakes. You had to repair the mistakes, which was hugely expensive.
That's in construction. It is very common these days, and not with us, with even big companies as well, is that when people make mistakes, ultimately you're dealing with human beings. And if they're not trained well, they are bound to make mistakes. And if that happens, it costs you a lot of money, and it costs you more than what you anticipate generally, especially when you have to go rip apart something and redo it.
And are you the ultimate perfectionist, therefore, who finds it hard to delegate?
No, I'm not. Earlier I was, now I'm not. Like I said, an entrepreneur, it's tough to lose control. It's tough to give away control, I should say. And from my side, everything lands on my desk at the end of the day. For my business, I understand that. But now I'm slowly having my people down the line, operations manager, project managers, they're slowly, I'm giving them, actually they've already got the empowerment to go deal with things on their own. It's just that now I'm trying to look at a corporate vision for the company in a big way. We just actually opened another office in Belleville in the east, for servicing the eastern region of Ontario, and I have plans to further expand all across Canada now. So I have no other choice. I have to rely on people, and I will train them. I will make sure that I'm giving them the empowerment, giving them the resources in order to be efficient, and at the same time building the controls and monitoring them regularly, of course.
Well, Mr. Ahuja, Dependable is a great name for a company. I told you that when I first met you, and it's a name that it has deserved, and more power to you and to the company.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it has been always, and the purpose of keeping it dependable was not just a mindset, really, but we really meant what we were going to deliver.
Well, you've
at the end of the
succeeded.
day.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.